We start with some breaking news. Big statement coming in from US President Donald Trump after campaigning for maximum pressure on Iran. Now he says China can purchase oil from Iran.
Well, will this pave the way for further negotiations between US and Iran and douse that situation in West Asia? Joining me right now is Mohammad Ghazali. NDTV's Ghazali has been following this very closely. Tell us the latest you're picking up on this and what you're picking up from sources in India as well.
See, this is a big shift in Trump's foreign policy because all this while he had been advocating for maximum pressure on Iran and even threatening with sanctions to countries who were engaging in oil purchase or any kind of trade with Iran. And in the last 4 or 5 months, he has sanctioned or put sanctions on many companies, many entities. And just hours after announcing ceasefire, he now goes on to say that even China can purchase oil from Iran, which China was anyway doing it. It certainly shows one particular shift in the policy that perhaps US now wants a separate kind of relations with Iran. Perhaps you'll see Iran coming back to the negotiating table, which it was doing already when 5 rounds of talks on nuclear policy was going on and when Israel had attacked Iran. So perhaps Mr. Trump is also hinting that this war which started between Israel and Iran is Israel's war. He has stepped out of it, even rebuking Mr. Netanyahu for stopping him from not carrying out further attacks on Iran, and now going on to say that Iran can sell its oil to China or China can purchase its oil from Iran. So that's a big shift as far as US's foreign policy for Iran is concerned. And perhaps we have also seen that how Mr. Trump has engaged with Mr. Putin to achieve a ceasefire with Iran, and also he has been going soft on China. So this entire troika of Iran, China and Russia is something which Mr. Putin wants on his side and to avoid any kind of escalation and conflict in the region.
Right. Thank you, Mohammad Ghazali, for joining us with those details. Clearly a shift in the policy, Veera, something that India should also be watching out for. Tensions continue even as the exchange between Iran and Israel continue despite announcement of a ceasefire by US President Donald Trump. In fact, Donald Trump has publicly expressed that he's very unhappy with both Iran and Israel for violating the ceasefire. He also told Israel, don't drop those bombs after Israeli Defense Minister ordered another round of strikes on Iran.
That's right. In fact, there was a call between US President and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu after the ceasefire was announced by the US President. Iranian missiles reportedly hit the southern Israeli city of Be'er Sheva this morning. So key questions this evening: how fragile is that ceasefire announcement? Will both sides respect it? No answers yet, Vasudha, but several other countries, remember, calling in for the immediate de-escalation, and this latest breaking news that we just reported could be part of that.
That's right, Veera. Another quick update. I believe that Air India has apparently restarted flights to European countries. So what's next in this conflict is something that has left the world concerned. Joining me this evening is James Bowden, who's an expert on Middle East affairs. We also have Dr. Tara Karta, former Director, National Security Council Secretariat. We have Ashok Sajanhar, former diplomat. Thank you all of you for joining me on this broadcast. Tara Karta, to you first. How do you look at the entire sequence of okay, we do have Ashok Sajanhar. Ambassador Sajanhar, how do you look at the entire series of reactions that have come in today? The announcement of ceasefire, then a few more bombings, and then of course Donald Trump saying that he's disappointed with both countries. What do you have to say about all of this? What can be expected next?
Yes, thank you very much, Vasudha, for having me on the show. If you permit, before coming to your question, could I go back to the breaking news that you had given about Donald Trump saying that now China can also import oil from Iran? Because I think, if that message is right, then of course it should apply equally, if not more, to India also. Now, China was already importing oil from Iran, irrespective of the sanctions that had been imposed by the United States. But India had stopped importing oil from Iran from 2019 onwards. So while earlier we were importing about 10-12% of our total requirement from Iran, very soon it came down to zero. So if India will also be able to import oil from Iran, I think that, as far as our energy security is concerned, would be very helpful. Secondly, the sort of sanctions that it was thought the maximum pressure policy of Donald Trump will have on Chabahar, because Chabahar also, India has great stakes in that, and we have invested money. We've got 10-year long contract from Iran to manage the Shahid Baheshti terminal at Chabahar. So I think if that is relaxed on Chabahar, that will be a great help for India. Now, coming back to your question, Vasudha, that you said about the ceasefire, whether it's going to hold or not, it is my view, it is my assessment that none of these three countries, who have been the major protagonists, who have been the major adversaries in this conflict, Iran, Israel, and the United States, have anything to gain by continuing this conflict. I think as far as Iran is concerned, it has seen that it has been hugely degraded, diminished, and that is why the foreign minister of Iran had rushed to Russia to get whatever support it could. The only thing it could get is diplomatic and political support, nothing else it could really get. And it had these pro forma and symbolic attacks on the US base in Qatar, because it knew that if it had a real substantive attack on the American presence in that region, it will have to face an onslaught
That's a very important point, Veera. Clearly, energy security of India is something that India is very watchful of. And, 80% of our crude oil is imported. Much of it comes from West Asia. And that is something that India is very keen on ensuring in terms of supplies and also in terms of cushioning its supplies, isn't it?
That's right. Let me just take this across both from a global point of view before we go to Tara Karta, to James Bowden. How do you see this latest, is it an olive branch of nature that Trump has offered, saying that China can go ahead and buy oil from Iran? Would you see this perhaps as the categorical steps towards dousing the situation there in West Asia?
It definitely is an economic olive branch, and it was something I somewhat expected, that Trump would try to appeal to the economics of both Israel and Iran in order to get them to move in this direction. But as has been pointed out, China has been buying Iranian oil for this entire time, and also Venezuela has been a heavy user of Iranian oil. So there's very little toothiness to this because it's already such an ongoing operation. So I'm not sure where the inducement is.
Tara Karta, let's also talk about India here and also the impact on India. Could a prolonged instability in this part of the world lead to inflationary pressure in India? We saw that happening during Russia-Ukraine war, the kind of impact on fertilizers, essential imports. How do you see this war impacting India and its economy?
No, right now the oil prices have gone down because of the ceasefire. I think the Brent took a huge dip, but this is not sustainable. At some point, it's going to start rising again. And like I've said often on your show, the priority for this government all along is our economic ascendancy. Why? Because that's what gives you a seat in the G20, it gives you a seat in the G7, it gives you a voice across the world. It is your rising economy which gives you the muscle power to talk in diplomatic circles. So if oil rises, it is a disaster for us, though, of course, we've now diverted again towards Russia. That works for some time, but it can't work over the long haul because of obvious reasons. Natural gas from US has gone up, so the US slice is increasing. But nonetheless, the global prices will get affected. So it is, and overall, this is not in anybody's interest. And in fact, since you were talking about this, I think a poll shows that even the US president's domestic ratings have gone down.
Right.
Right. When you say that, ma'am, I just want to step back a little bit and ask what you believe is the assessment as far as India's position is concerned. It is something that's very unique in the sense that you have your equations with Iran as well as that with Israel. What's perhaps the key learnings for India as we go ahead? Because we seem to be in an era of conflict.
Oh, yes, it is. We have a very strong relationship with Israel, as you know. I mean, goes across into various domains which we won't go into here. But the whole Iran conflict is probably going to benefit Pakistan a lot, because Pakistan border is used for multifarious things. And at some point, it was used by the Israelis themselves to get into Iran. So these are not partnerships that we want. Iran is also a good friend. Chabahar port is just taking off. It's doing extremely well. So the investments which we put into Chabahar, all that matters. And for us, Iran and Israel are pretty much good partners of ours. Iran has been a very strong, one of the few countries which are on our side in terms of Kashmir. So it's a bit of a diplomatic cakewalk. I mean, and sorry, not a cakewalk, a very narrow walk.
Yes.
But
Ice skating
if you're
walk.
going to be, so if you're going to be a big power, you're going to have to get weighed into this and go in for mediation, because you're trusted by both sides.
Okay.
Why shouldn't you also
Ambassador
give it in?
Sajjanhar, this diplomatic tightrope that we're talking about, how should India balance its strategic ties with Israel, Iran and US? Because specifically in Gulf nations, we have a huge number of people working there. So it is in our interest to ensure that this part of the world remains at least conflict-free. So you'll have to unmute yourself.
Peace and security is very important for us, for India, as far as this region is concerned. And it's not only the 9 million Indian diaspora that we have there. It is also the $75 billion that this diaspora sends to India. Our largest trading partners, some of the largest, UAE is number 3, Saudi Arabia is number 4. In terms of the investments, we are getting huge amounts from there. Also in terms of energy, whether it's oil or gas, we are getting huge. So this is a very important region for us, and safety, security, stability is very important for us. So we have to work together with all the partners, and you would have seen that over the recent years, our relations with all major countries in the region, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, they have become strategic. They have become very strong. Even, all these countries have awarded their highest decorations to Prime Minister Modi because of the rapid advance of bilateral ties. And also we have, this I2U2, IMEC, we are negotiating FTA with the GCC, etc. So there's huge things going for us. So we have to make sure that the region doesn't explode. And that is why Prime Minister Modi's conversations, both with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Pezeshkian, was basically that we are on the side of peace, we are on the side of dialogue and diplomacy. And as I said at the beginning, in my comments, I think that it serves the interest, whatever has happened over the last 12, 13 days from 13th June onwards. I think from now on, the interest of all parties is served by having a ceasefire and by a resumption of the negotiations between the United States and Iran on this whole nuclear enrichment issue. And I think this is the olive branch that Mr. Trump is throwing. It's, it'll be applicable, as I said, hopefully not only to China, but to others.
Right.
And that will definitely be a step.
I'm sorry, Ambassador Sajjanhar.